Let's talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers and everything that's going on with the team right now. There's a lot of interesting news coming out, especially with the 2025 draft looming. The Steelers have been making waves, and we'll be diving into some of the latest developments, like their potential draft selection and how Broderick Jones could play a bigger role this season. For context, we're focusing on his potential transition from right tackle to left tackle, which could be a pivotal change after his first couple of seasons in the NFL. To kick things off, we should take a closer look at what analysts are saying about the Steelers' draft plans. One recent analysis pointed to the Steelers having a particular interest in a quarterback from the University of Alabama. The buzz is that the Steelers might seriously consider selecting this quarterback with their 21st overall pick in the first round. This has caused quite a stir because the franchise reportedly holds this player in high regard. It seems as though they might be positioning themselves for a future quarterback. This kind of speculation gets fans wondering whether Pittsburgh is ready to make a bold move by adding a quarterback to the roster. And if this player is still available by the time the Steelers are on the clock, it seems increasingly likely that they could take him. What stands out about this quarterback is his size, his impressive speed, and his arm strength. He's been known to have an elite-level performance during testing, showing off some of the best numbers for his position. What really catches the attention of coaches, especially in Pittsburgh, is his ability to throw deep passes with incredible velocity and precision. His physical attributes align well with the traits that Steelers head coach Mike Tomlin values in quarterbacks, athletes who can combine speed with power in their throws. His skill set already matches many of the successful quarterbacks that have thrived in the league, and this makes him a tempting option for the team. If the Steelers were to select this quarterback, they might see him as a long-term prospect, someone who could develop behind a veteran starter, gaining the necessary experience before stepping in as the franchise's lead quarterback. However, it's important to remember that he's far from a finished product. While his physical abilities are undeniable, there's still a lot of questions about his readiness to lead a team at this point. When breaking down his strengths, it's clear that he's a physical specimen, someone who has all the tools needed to be successful at the NFL level. But there are areas of his game that need work, particularly in terms of accuracy. His processing speed in the pocket has been questioned, and the way he reads defenses still needs some fine-tuning. He also has a tendency to rely on his legs when things break down, and that's a trait that, while useful, can also be a red flag in terms of his ability to manage the pocket. There's also the issue of his hands being a little smaller than some other quarterbacks, which can affect his grip on the ball, especially in tough weather conditions or under pressure. That's an element of his game that will require monitoring as he continues to develop. In my own assessment, this quarterback seems like more of a second-day draft pick, likely in the later rounds of the second or the early third. He has immense potential, but there's still a lot of work to be done before he reaches the level of a starting quarterback in the NFL. As it stands, I believe he will need at least 1, possibly 2 years of seasoning before he's ready to be considered as a starter in the league. This is one of the reasons why I personally wouldn't be thrilled if the Steelers picked him with their first-round selection, especially when you consider that their next pick doesn't come until the 83rd overall pick, which is quite a long gap. Taking a player who might not even be ready to play in his first or second year, and perhaps not even his third year, would be a big risk, particularly when there are other immediate needs the team could address. It's a reminder that the Steelers operate in a rather tight circle when it comes to their decision-making. When things are leaked to the public, there's often a reason for it, and sometimes those leaks aren't entirely truthful. Pittsburgh has a history of manipulating the media, playing the game of controlling the narrative. Think back to the year they selected a quarterback, when all the reports were focused on the idea that head coach Tomlin was enamored with a certain player and was planning on selecting him in the first round. Yet, when it came time to make the pick, the Steelers went in a completely different direction. We saw something similar last season, where they publicly stated there was no chance of acquiring a top-tier quarterback and that they were content with their current roster, only to later bring in a quarterback they hadn't been rumored to be interested in. This offseason, before free agency even began, there were rumors about a lack of interest in a high-profile quarterback, even though Tomlin himself had this quarterback as his top choice. Pittsburgh has shown time and again that they know how to conceal their true intentions and feed false information to shape the media narrative. So, Could the Steelers be seriously considering taking a quarterback in the first round? It's certainly possible, but I don't think it's as likely as some might think. There are other quarterbacks available that could fit the team's needs, ones who are more polished and ready to contribute immediately. It's not that the Alabama quarterback doesn't have talent, but when you weigh the potential long-term development with the need for immediate impact, the situation becomes murkier. As much as I can see the allure of drafting a quarterback for the future, I think there are other areas where the Steelers could be better off investing their first-round pick. Maybe it's a defensive player, or perhaps someone who would help stabilize the offensive line or fill another critical gap. Regardless, there are a lot of moving pieces, and if the Steelers decide to go with a quarterback in the first round, it could set the team on a very interesting path for years to come. As for this specific quarterback, he could definitely have a bright future if given the right guidance. But I think the Steelers would be wise to wait a bit longer before pulling the trigger on a pick like this. A quarterback with a lot of upside is always tempting, but it's also important to look at the bigger picture and consider what would best serve the team's immediate and long-term goals. Would I be disappointed if they selected him at 21? Absolutely. But who knows? The NFL draft is always full of surprises, and the Steelers have a track record of doing what they think is best, even when it defies conventional expectations. Next, let's shift gears and talk about Broderick Jones. While the focus has been on his development as a right tackle, the Steelers have big plans for him this season, and the key is his transition to left tackle. It's clear that his first 2 seasons in the NFL have been a bit of a learning curve, but with him moving to a position that better suits his skill set, there's reason to be optimistic about what he can bring to the team. His lone start at left tackle against a division rival was one of his best performances to date. He received one of the highest grades of his career, showing flashes of the potential that made Pittsburgh invest a first-round pick in him. His run blocking stood out, and while his pass blocking grade wasn't perfect, it was still notably better than his career average. The sample size may be small, but it's telling. Broderick Jones is a player who has the ability to shine at left tackle, and his early struggles as a right tackle may have been due to the fact that it wasn't his natural position. Now that he's back on the left side, where he played in college, the hope is that he'll start to show his true potential. It's not going to be easy, and there will still be bumps along the way, but Jones has the physical tools to be a standout left tackle in the NFL. And with the Steelers' belief in him, this season could be the one where he truly begins to make his mark. But, as with any young player, only time will tell if he can live up to the lofty expectations placed on him. As we move forward, the situation surrounding Broderick Jones becomes even more intriguing. The Steelers are clearly committed to his development, and there's no doubt that they're hoping he'll emerge as a key piece of their offensive line. His transition from right tackle to left tackle is a big part of this, and it's something that could really determine the trajectory of his career. We've seen flashes of his potential, but can he consistently deliver at the highest level? That's the big question. One of the most notable aspects of Jones' rookie season was his performance in the few games he played. While the sample size was admittedly small, there were still some encouraging signs. For instance, his performance against a rival team, when he was forced into a starting role at left tackle, was particularly impressive. His overall grade for that game was one of the highest of his career, and it was clear that he was much more comfortable in the position than he had been at right tackle. His ability to block for the run game was outstanding, and even though his pass protection wasn't flawless, it was still a marked improvement compared to his earlier work. That game alone showed that, with more time and experience, he could become a reliable option at left tackle. However, it's important to note that this was just one game, and the NFL is an entirely different beast when it comes to consistency. Jones will need to prove that he can deliver these kinds of performances week in and week out. The hope is that now, in his second season, he'll have more time to settle into the left tackle position and refine his technique. The Steelers have already invested a lot in him, and their expectation is that he'll eventually become one of the cornerstones of their offensive line. There's a lot of pressure on his shoulders, but he's certainly shown that he has the physical attributes to make it at the highest level. In terms of physicality, Jones is exactly what you want in an NFL left tackle. He's big, strong, and has the ability to move well for his size. His agility and strength make him a threat in the run game, and his size give him the power to hold up against the best edge rushers in the league. These are all key attributes that the Steelers saw in him when they selected him in the first round of the 2023 draft. His ability to anchor against pass rushers will be critical as he continues to grow in his role. And if he can refine his technique and become more consistent, he could eventually be one of the best left tackles in the NFL. It's also worth noting that Jones had to deal with some injury issues during his rookie season, particularly with his elbow. While he was able to play through it, the injury certainly had an impact on his performance. Now, with a full offseason to recover and get in a better shape, the hope is that he'll be fully healthy and ready to take on the challenge of becoming the Steelers' starting left tackle. The team has invested a lot in him, and they're hoping that he can take the next step in his development. Still, there's no denying that Jones has a long way to go. The transition from right tackle to left tackle is never easy, and while he showed flashes of potential last season, he'll need to show more consistency in order to be considered a long-term solution. The good news is that the Steelers seem to believe in him. They moved up in the draft to select him for a reason, and they're giving him every opportunity to succeed. But he'll need to prove himself on the field, and that's something that can only be done through hard work and consistent performance. As for the team's overall plans, it seems clear that they're still in a bit of a rebuilding phase when it comes to their offensive line. While they've made some significant strides in recent years, they still need more stability in that area. If Broderick Jones can step up and become the left tackle the Steelers hope he can be, it would go a long way in solidifying the offensive line and giving quarterback Kenny Pickett the protection he needs to succeed. That's a crucial part of the puzzle for Pittsburgh, and it's something they'll be closely watching throughout the upcoming season. Looking beyond the offensive line, the Steelers have a lot of work to do in terms of addressing other positions of need. For one, they could certainly benefit from bolstering their defensive line, particularly at the defensive tackle position. They've been solid up front, but adding another piece could help them continue to compete at a high level in the AFC North. Additionally, there's the need to consider the linebacker position, where the Steelers have had some great players in recent years, but are now looking to replenish their depth. The secondary is another area that could use some attention, with cornerback and safety being positions that could stand to improve in terms of depth and overall talent. Looking back at the quarterback situation, while the idea of selecting a quarterback in the first round might seem like an attractive option, the Steelers have a lot of other areas to address. They could certainly use another playmaker on offense, whether to running back, wide receiver, or tight end. However, if they do decide to go in the direction of a quarterback, it's important that they choose wisely. They need someone who can step in and make an impact quickly, rather than someone who will require multiple years of development. There's a risk that selecting a quarterback who isn't ready for the NFL could set the team back even further, especially given the current state of the roster. At the end of the day, the Steelers are in a good position heading into the 2025 draft. They have a solid core of players and some areas of weakness that need to be addressed. Whether it's adding depth to the offensive line, improving the defense, or finding the next franchise quarterback, the team has a lot of options. What's clear, though, is that Broderick Jones is an integral part of their future. He has the potential to be a dominant force on the offensive line, but he'll need to continue developing and proving himself on the field. If he can do that, the Steelers will have a key piece to build around for years to come. The upcoming season will be a critical one for Jones and the entire team. There are a lot of moving parts, and much of the success of the offense will depend on how well the offensive line holds up, especially at left tackle. If Jones can become the player the Steelers expect him to be, it will be a huge step forward for both him and the team. It's a lot of pressure, but it's also a massive opportunity. And if he can rise to the occasion, the Steelers' future looks a whole lot brighter. The next few months will be telling, and Steelers fans everywhere will be watching closely as Broderick Jones looks to make his mark as one of the NFL's top left tackles. But before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe to Steelers Nation Central and hit the like button on this video. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on the Pittsburgh Steelers. And don't forget to share your thoughts on the news in the comments below. The buzz surrounding the potential arrival of Tyreek Hill to the Pittsburgh Steelers has sent shockwaves through the NFL community. A rumor that initially seemed out of left field now seems more and more plausible, as the Steelers look to bolster their offense with a true game-changing talent. Known as Cheetah for his unparalleled speed, Hill has dazzled fans and analysts alike with his electrifying performances over the years, and Pittsburgh's need for a dynamic wide receiver could pave the way for his stunning move. But what would this mean for the Steelers? Hill's explosive 2023 season with the Miami Dolphins showcased why he remains one of the league's top receivers. Despite the Dolphins missing out on the playoffs, Hill finished with an impressive 119 receptions, 1,799 receiving yards, and 13 touchdowns. His ability to stretch the field and turn routine catches into long, jaw-dropping gains would provide an immediate upgrade to Pittsburgh's offensive unit. The Steelers have long lacked a true deep threat, and Hill's presence could open up new possibilities for their passing game. But what could a trade for Hill look like? The Steelers are no strangers to making bold moves, and with Hill's contract situation in flux following his frustrations with Miami, a trade could be within their reach. Hill's record-breaking performances, including his recent achievement of over 1,000 yards by Week 8, have solidified his place as one of the most electrifying players in the NFL. A move to Pittsburgh could mean an instant injection of star power into an offense that already boasts solid weapons in Kenny Pickett and Najee Harris. However, any potential acquisition would come with challenges. Hill's tumultuous final moments with the Dolphins, including his public dissatisfaction and cryptic exit, could raise questions about his locker room presence. Will his desire for a fresh start mesh well with the Steelers' culture? And with Hill's high trade value, Pittsburgh would likely have to part with significant assets to make it happen, something that may not sit well with every fan or analyst. In the end, the arrival of Tyreek Hill could be the jolt the Steelers' offense desperately needs. His speed and ability to break defenses wide open would provide Pickett with a true number one target, elevating the team to a new level. As rumors swirl and more details emerge, Steelers fans can only hope that this high-speed chase for Hill becomes a reality, making Pittsburgh's offense one of the most feared in the NFL. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the Pittsburgh Steelers, make sure to subscribe to Steelers Nation Central and give this video a like. We always look forward to hearing your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.